Now let us study the coefficient of variation, also denoted as CV. It is used to compare the degree of dispersion between two groups of observations, and its formula is given as CV is equal to sigma, that is standard deviation, divided by absolute value of x bar, that is absolute value of mean, into 100%, because CV is often represented as a percentage. So what is the meaning of CV, or the purpose of CV is as mentioned here. Suppose we have two different groups of observations. They may represent the same physical quantity or two different physical quantities, like say heights and weights, which are two different physical quantities. Or for two different groups we are measuring the heights of the people, right? So in that case it may happen that the number of observations in two groups are different, or their mean value or standard deviation, all these values could be different for both the groups. So in that case, how do we know which group shows more dispersion as compared to the other? So in that case we calculate the CV for each group, and the group which has more value or the larger value of CV shows larger variation, because CV stands for the coefficient of variation. So more the CV, more is the variation, and more the variation means less is the uniformity, right? So in that sense we have to compare the two groups. Now let us solve one example based on this so that it will be clear. From the given data, find which firm has more consistent payment of wages. So if you see here, we are given a table of information in two firms, A and B. We are given the number of employees, the mean wage, and the standard deviation of wage for both of the companies. Now if you observe, both the companies have different number of employees, then their mean salary or mean wage, they also have different values, and similarly the standard deviation is also different. So how do you know which company is better in terms of consistency in the payment? So this is where the CV comes to use. Okay, so let us write the formula of CV again. CV, we have seen that sigma upon x bar into 100%. Now since the mean is already positive, no need to take the absolute value. Now in case of first company A, we have to calculate the coefficient of variation. So therefore sigma is 10 divided by 52.5 into 100. So if we calculate that, it comes to 19.05. Whereas if we calculate coefficient of variation for firm B, then it turns out to be 11 upon 54.5 into 100, which in turn is approximately equal to 20.18. Now the question is asking more consistent payment. So that means we want the company with more consistency, and if the consistency is more, then that means variation is less, isn't it? So therefore the company with less variation in salaries is the answer, and less variation means it should have less value of the coefficient of variation. So here we see that it is firm A which has smaller coefficient of variation. So since variation is smaller, that means consistency is more. So therefore the answer is firm A shows more consistent payment of wages.